Police and protesters clashed in cities across France for the fifth straight night. The violence follows the police shooting death of a 17-year-old boy of Algerian descent. The death is renewing questions about policing and race relations in France. The boy's funeral was held yesterday, followed by new riots and an attack at the home of a mayor in a Paris suburb. He describes it as an assassination attempt on his family. The CBC's Dominic Velitis is following the story from London. Dominic, what is the latest?
Well, more than 700 people were arrested last night, while nearly 600 vehicles and more than 70 buildings were set on fire across France. The worst disorder, we're told, though, was in Marseille, where police reportedly used rubber bullets and tear gas to suppress protests there. But perhaps the most shocking incident of last night, as you mentioned, happened in the greater Paris region, where a car was rammed into the home of a suburb mayor before being set alight. His wife and two young children who were asleep inside at the time were injured as they fled the building. And as they did, it's being alleged today that rioters fired rockets at them. Investigators are treating the incident as attempted murder, and France's Prime Minister, who visited the scene earlier today, has urged that those responsible be punished with the utmost severity. Meanwhile, there were sporadic clashes in central Paris last night. Police say 6 buildings were damaged and 5 officers injured in the disorder there. But unrest, rioting and looting also reported overnight in Nice, Lyon, Rennes, Montpellier and Strasbourg, where police deployed armoured vehicles on the streets in response. So a busy night again. And incidentally, we have just heard from the grandmother of Nahel M. That's the 17-year-old who was killed by police in Paris on Tuesday and whose death sparked all of this unrest. She has accused rioters of using his death as an excuse to go on the rampage and is calling for calm, calling for an end to the disorder. Neil.
Dominic, that is a very interesting development. So tell us, how is the government responding?
Well, for the second night running now, we've seen this huge police presence on the streets of France. Around 45,000 officers were deployed in towns and cities across the country last night and the night before to really enforce law and order. And officials believe that that has had an effect and made for a quieter night last night when compared to previous ones. It does seem that there were fewer arrests. As I say, around 700 last night compared to about 1,300 on Friday, 900 or so on Thursday. But officials are also hoping that rioters are now losing energy and that a turning point in this disorder may have been reached. This, as you mentioned earlier, is the 5th consecutive night of protests and rioting. That's certainly what they're hoping anyway. We'll have to wait and see if that turns out to be the case, Neil.